Yeah, I'm sleeping.
I bet you are. Go to bed.
I can't.
Gavin, stop letting the spirits keep you up. Tell them to let you rest. Okay? As for the rest of you, Jordan, tell the streets that your phone is off at 8 o'clock. Zataria, tell your grandpa that you need to be in the house prior to 10 a.m. if you ain't about to be getting in bed on time. That'll make no sense. You got to get to the money. Whose money? It ain't like you getting taxes taken out.
I do.
No, you don't. No, you don't.
Keisha got a job too.
To sleep?
You work at Wendy's.
Bye. If Wendy's is his house, that's where he working, okay? The whole front end of this recording is me talking to y'all about going and waking up. That's the sad part. And I ain't editing it out. It's staying in. Jesus. Let's talk about distributed property. If you have your notes out from last Monday, distributed property is what operation? What operation is happening when you're distributing? The what? Coefficient outside the parentheses to each term inside of the parentheses. So each term has to be multiplied by the number that's outside of it. What's the number outside of this first one?
6.
So what is 6 times x?
6x.
Minus 6 times 3, which is?
8.
Are these like terms? So that's my final answer. Any questions? Remember, when simplifying, we have to write answers in descending order. Any questions there? Descending means from the highest exponent to the lowest exponent, alphabetically, with your constant last. If you don't remember that, those are your notes from Thursday and Friday of last week. It should be 1.9 and 1.10. Any questions? What is the number outside of this parentheses? So, what's negative 3 times 2?
Negative 3 times 2
Is? What kind of 6? Negative 6 what?
X squared.
X squared. What's being multiplied next?
Negative 3 times 3 and after.
Negative 3 times 3x. So what's negative 3 times 3? Negative 9. What goes behind it? X. And now it's being multiplied.
Negative 3 and 5.
And what kind of 5?
5.
No. Negative 5, because what's in the front? A minus sign, correct? So 2 negatives make a, when you're multiplying or dividing. 3 times 5 is this in descending order? Is my highest exponent first? Yes. My constant last? Then that's the answer. Any questions? Any questions here? Example 1. Directions say simplify each by doing what? Distributing. So what am I distributing in letter A? So what's negative 2 times 5?
10.
What kind of 10? Don't assume. Type it in if you're not good with integer multiplication or division, okay? This is not our time to judge. We have to get it together, okay? What's being multiplied next?
Negative 2 and x.
So what's negative 2 times x?
Negative 2x.
Negative 2x. Is this written in descending order?
Yeah.
No, because is the constant last?
Yes, ma'am.
Mm-mm.
No.
Which one's the constant?
The first one.
Negative 10. So is that going first or last right now? First. It's supposed to be what?
Last.
So how would I rewrite this?
2
What kind of 2?
positive.
Because isn't there a minus in the front? The sign in front has to go with the number that follows it. Does that make sense? So what goes behind it?
Minus 2.
Any questions there? Is it making sense? Perfect. The order does not matter. What's being distributed in B? What's being distributed? Negative 3. Notice what I said at the beginning. The order does not matter. If they put it in the back, is that still a singular number being distributed? Yeah. So the rules are still the same. So what's negative 3 times 6?
Negative 18.
Negative 18. What's negative 3 times negative x?
Negative 3x.
Not quite. Positive 3x, because two negatives make a, when you're multiplying and dividing. Great job. Make sure you know your integer rules. Any questions? Is this in standard form? Because which one is your constant?
In the back.
Negative 18. Is it last right now? So how do I write it?
3x plus.
You don't need the plus. Because what's the sign in front of the 18?
Negative.
So it becomes a minus. Any questions there?
No.
What's being distributed on C?
8.
So, what needs to be brought down first?
8 and x squared.
Because 8 times x squared is 8x squared. I agree. Then,
8 and 3 and negative 3 will be 3 negative 3.
what are we missing?
8 times 5.
Uh-uh.
Plus x.
Thank you. Because that 3 still has an x, so we still have to bring that down. Does that make sense? Then, what's being multiplied?
8 times 5.
Which is?
40.
Is this in descending order?
Yes.
Is the highest exponent first?
Yes, sir.
Constant last?
Yes, ma'am.
Any questions there?
No, ma'am.
Any at all?
No.
How are we feeling?
Good.
Looking at number, letter D. What's being distributed?
1/2.
1/2. Multiplying by 1/2 is the same as dividing by what number? 2. So what's 4 divided by 2? 2 what? X. What's negative 8 divided by 2?
4.
What kind of 4?
5.
Negative, because that 8 is negative. Do y'all see that?
Yes, ma'am.
So, is this in standard form?
Yes, ma'am.
That's the answer. Any questions there?
No, ma'am.
Is everyone following distributive property?
Yes, ma'am.
Is it making more sense?
Yes, ma'am.
All you're doing is multiplying the number out here. The way I set this one, if you need to know the context behind this is what I set up here. This is the same as dividing by 2. 1/2 multiplying by it is the same as dividing by 2. Any questions? Okay. Example number 2 says distributive property and the multiplication property of -1, because this happens a lot. A lot of people see examples like 2 and they do not understand that you are still distributing a number. But what number am I distributing in front of all of these? -1. We need to put a 1 in front of every single one of these. Yes, there is a negative, but it is a -1. Multiplying by -1 takes the what of everything behind it. Starts with an O. It takes the opposite of everything. What's the opposite of a positive? What's the opposite of a negative? Does it change the actual number though? No. So, what's the opposite of 5x? -5x. What's the opposite of -3? Is this in standard form? That's the answer. You see how quick that was? Knowing your properties are everything, because this is another individual property that's used consistently, okay? What's the opposite of -x? What's the opposite of 4? Is this in standard form? That's the answer. You see how quick that is? You have to know those properties, okay? When all else fails, do you have a calculator? When all else fails, am I going to judge you for using said calculator? No, but you need to know your properties, okay? So, looking at C, what's the opposite of 4? What's the opposite of negative 9x?
Positive 5.
Is this in standard form?
No.
So then how do I rewrite it?
9, 6, minus 4.
Absolutely agree. Any questions there?
No, well,
How are we feeling?
good.
Better?
Yeah.
Okay, let's look at D. What's the opposite of negative x?
X.
What's the opposite of y?
Negative 1.
What's the opposite of negative 1?
Positive 1.
Is this in standard form?
Yeah.
Yes, because x comes before y in the alphabet and is the constant last.
Yeah.
Oh, I got it right.
Go with your gut. Tarian, listen to me. Go with your gut, because usually you're right, okay? Don't second guess yourself. Go with what you know, because you know this, okay? Any questions here?
Oh,
How are we feeling?
good.
Pretty good? You think we're ready for practice?
Yeah.
Let's do it. Daily grade, I'm going to need you to do 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6. So do questions 1, 2, 3, 4, and 6. When you're finished, bring it to me, okay? It's the true definition of a you issue. We did not do that great to be sitting here leaning like that. You know better than that. You look good, feel good, do good. Those are the ways to be successful, right?
Can I ask you what I read?
Absolutely. Look good, feel good, you do good. Those are the ways. They correlate to each other. That's like when you see somebody come into work with their hair haphazard, not ready, not dressed. Do you think they're going to have the best day? No, because they didn't come in feeling the best. So which means model that when you're coming in. Does that make sense? Walk in like you own the place respectfully. Okay? The day you see me coming in here looking like I just stepped off of an airplane strip, you better make sure to know to avoid me that day, okay? But until then, we gonna look good, feel good, do good. Let's look at number 1. The directions are exactly the same. Simplify each expression by doing what? Distributing. That means whether it be either like example 1 or example 2, or some of them are a mixture of both. What's being distributed in number 1? 3. So what's being multiplied first?
3 times 8.
What's 3 times h?
3
What's being multiplied next?
3 times 8.
What's 3 times negative 5? Don't you have a calculator? Don't say it out loud. Type it in, ladies and gentlemen. A lot of people mess this one up. 3 times negative 5, don't say it out loud. Give people time. It took us a minute when we got a calculator in front of us, correct? Make it make sense to me. What's 3 times negative 5? Is there any way to simplify this any further?
No.
Is this in standard form?
Yeah.
That's all you needed. That looks a whole lot like example A or B or C. It all looks the same. Any questions there? Number 2, what's being distributed?
Negative 7.
So what's being multiplied first?
Negative 7 times
Multiplying 2 negatives results in a
positive.
positive. So what's 7 times 5?
35.
We have 35. But am I done?
No.
What's being multiplied next?
Negative 7 times m.
What's negative 7 times m?
7
What kind of 7? Negative 7m. Because this m isn't negative, you can't change that to a positive. Does that make sense? Is this in standard form?
No.
What needs to be written first?
Negative 7
M,
plus 35.
plus 35, because isn't that 35 positive? Some people got credit for just putting the number, because again, this is me trying to show you how partial credit works. But should anyone miss problems like this? No, because is there anything extra that goes along with this right now?
No.
Am I adding an extra step tomorrow though?
Yeah.
Sure am, because it says distributed property and what? Combining like terms, which means you got to know what like terms are again, yes?
Yeah.
Okay, moving on. 3. What's being distributed? Don't this look just like letter B up there?
Yeah.
So what's being multiplied first? If you did negative 12 times 3, is that still okay? That's still okay. What did you get when you said negative 12 times 3?
-36.
-36. What's being multiplied next? So what's -12 times 5n? Is this in standard form? So what needs to be written first? I don't know how some of y'all got an M in this case. That is an N through and through. I don't remember whose paper I circled that on, but I was like, keep the variable they gave you, please, and thank you.
Oh, what?
I didn't count it off against you, but I said, how'd you get an M right here? Okay, don't do that. Any questions? Do we see where we messed up? Should we be writing the correct answers here?
Yes.
If we sitting there with our arms crossed to the writing the right answer, who are we hurting, me or you?
Are you talking to me?
Yeah.
I don't see you writing a single correct answer on that paper. And am I going through it? Are these notes for me or for you?
George.
So I'm trying to figure out why you think this is acceptable when we going through it. I know I throwing shots, we spitting facts. One of us got a degree, honey. A few of them. And there's 14 of us in here that don't have a diploma yet.
We working to get out.
We trying to get our first high school credits, correct? Are you gonna get those credits sitting there like a knot on the log? Who you waiting on, Jesus? He been here. He don't need a degree, he's Jesus. You need the degree, you need the diploma, okay?
Yes.
Sitting there. Looking at this, what's being distributed?
1/3.
What's the same thing as saying 1/3? What are you also doing? Dividing it by 3, because the top number is 1. Does that make sense? So what's 3 divided by 3? You got a calculator, you can type it in, that'd be okay. It's 1. 1 what?
Z.
Z. What's 12 divided by 3?
4.
So what goes behind this?
4.
What operation? Plus 4, because it's a positive 4. Any questions there? Is this in descending order?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's all you needed.
Oh, I put a 1.
If you put the 1, I didn't count it off. Ain't there a 1 in front of there?
Yes, ma'am.
You just gotta know that this means the same thing as what you wrote. Does that make sense? You are okay. 6. Don't this look like example number 2 at the top?
Yeah.
So what am I doing with all of these numbers? I'm taking the,
Negative.
not the negative, the
Negative.
starts with an O.
The opposite.
Opposite, correct? What's the opposite of negative 8?
Positive.
What's the opposite of negative 16?
Positive 60.
Is that in standard form?
No, it's 16. 16 plus 8.
Did I ask y'all to do anything hard on this?
No.
Yeah.
Yes.
Sure didn't. I asked you to recall knowledge that was at the top of the paper, correct? So if you don't know how to read these 8 problems, do we see where the issue is?
Yes, ma'am.
We need to fix that, right? Because what's happening Friday?
Texas.
You don't get a retake on a test.
Oh, dang.
That will never happen. Only time you retake a test is when you fail the state test.
You take it next week.
You take it with the next class, you take it with the next group. So imagine failing it as a sophomore, retaking it with freshmen.
I have never passed a state test in my life.
Well, you better get to it now.
Yeah.
Because don't you have all the foundational skills and building blocks to help you pass it? Yep.
You're pretty smart.
Not a single one of y'all are expected to take a state test this go round. But this class, this group, you're going to be expected to take at least 3 next year. That's biology, English 2, and Algebra 1. So which means you need to be on your A game. Because that's at least 2 tests in 1 semester. And testing is an entire week. And English 2 is a 2-day test. It's a multiple choice section and a writing section. Biology is usually the first test, and it usually happens on a Thursday or Friday. So which means you might be ending your week with a test and starting your week with another test. So handle that now so it sets you up for success later. Does that make sense? Don't squander an opportunity like this in a class like this when you've earned the opportunity to be in here. Because I can't tell you how many kids would want to be in an SREB class where they can get extra help, they can get extra time, while still receiving the same amount of credits as somebody in my 4th block. But they're expected to take a state test next semester. Y'all aren't expected to yet. So do not squander that opportunity. Okay? Lean up. Look at question 12 at the bottom there. I want to talk about this one. Because we ain't seen a fraction one like this quite yet, have we?
No.
Let's look at it. What am I distributing? 2/3. Now, some of us don't know how to type fractions in the calculator. Let's fix that real quick. I done went through it, but we're going to fix it again. What's this being distributed to first? 7. So it's 2 divided by 3. That's all a fraction is division. Does that make sense? So it's 2/3 times 7.
Wait, how you do it?
I got 4.
Baby, it's parentheses 2 divided by 3. Close parentheses times 7. Stavon, make sure you're typing this in, baby. Because you ain't walking up to me on a test day and saying, how do I type this in? Because didn't I just go through it?
Yeah.
Ain't I trying to help you right now? Ain't this being recorded so you can watch it later on your leisure? Thank you. When you hit enter, you should get this. Did you get this decimal? From there, math 1, enter. We want a fraction to keep it clean. So we have 14 over 3D. Do we all see that?
This the answer?
No, because am I done distributing?
No.
What's being multiplied next?
2/3 times 15.
Get that one typed in? What y'all end up getting?
10.
So what should be after that D?
Plus 10.
Is that in standard form?
Yeah.
Because it's the constant last.
Yeah.
Any questions?
No.
Any at all? Well, you already know what's up, correct?
Yeah.
Working on your practice. Don't you have time to do them and get help? Yep, sure do. So you better get started now. Because today's lesson goes into tomorrow's lesson. They build off of each other. Find your seat for a second, sir.